Oh my God, that's a loud voice too.
All right, so we finally figured it out. Sorry guys about the live chat. Yeah, it is what it is. So I'm here with my buddy Ryan, combat
Deja
Marine
vu.
veteran, and we're going to be talking about our deployment, our first deployment to Afghanistan. All right. So before we get into it, why did you join the Marine Corps?
So now I feel like I'm saying it again to you. So sorry you have to hear
I
it again.
know.
Uh, well, I was in fifth grade when 9/11 happened, and that kind of like put me on the roadmap to joining. But I like initially wanted to be in the Army because a Band of Brothers from HBO. So that
Oh
like kind of
yeah.
was like what I got into, and I was like, airborne's where it's at. And then the invasion of Iraq, there was the iconic photo of the Marine with the AT-4 like on top of like a berm or whatever he's on, and he's shooting it out of a bunker or whatever. And I'm like, I want to do whatever that guy's doing. And so I figured
Uh,
out that was the Marine Corps. And then ever since that was around like the same time YouTube was coming out and you had a computer in your house and internet was installed. For any of the
yeah.
younger listeners, like I was alive and you were alive when all of that was taking place. And I just
Yeah.
watched YouTube videos of Fallujah and Ramadi, and I couldn't wait, honestly. Um,
Yeah.
which is kind of, I guess, like when I tell other people that aren't Marines, when they're like, "Oh man, why did you end up doing that?" I was like, I just kind of always had that feeling that that's what I wanted to do. Um, not before 9/11 though. Like I was teaching about 9/11 the other day to some of my students, and just like expressing to them, like I had no intention of joining the military until that happened. It was just
Yeah.
like around that time, there's so much pride in our country and pride in like the service members that I was like, I want to be a part of that because they're obviously doing something great. Like they're getting revenge, they're doing all this great stuff, and I wanted to be a part of it. I think a lot of kids that joined around that time because we were kids, you know. I joined when I was 17. I don't know how old you were, but like
Yeah,
I
I was 17.
yeah. So like for us, it's probably was that your driving factor too? Like you were just in it to go.
Yeah, so like like what grade were you in?
I was in fifth.
Yeah, so like I was I guess in sixth.
Yeah,
Um
I think you're a year older than me.
yeah, and so yeah, so like I just remember watching it and my immediate thought wasn't the Marine Corps, like I wanted to join the Navy. Um and then like as I progressed, I just realized that the uniforms were just not cutting it for me.
Yeah, no.
You
The cool
know?
blue camouflage, you didn't want that?
Yeah, well, it was mostly the Cracker Jack. Like,
Oh yeah, it's pretty
yeah, I'm
bad
just
too.
like, yeah, dude. Like, I don't know if I want that. And then, I think it was my junior year in high school. I ended up talking to a Marine recruiter, and then, like, basically, did like MEPS, like, would show up and do all the
Mm.
pulley stuff, and then, uh, yeah, and then went with the Marines, which like I'm not ashamed of whatsoever, and I'm
Yeah.
glad that I didn't sign the paper for the Navy. So,
What MOS did you go in as?
so originally I was 0311, and then
Mhm.
uh, like I wanted to be, I think it's 0321, like recon.
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh three
Uh,
twenty one.
yeah, and yeah, so like fucking at MEPS, like the dude giving me the colorblind test had one eye, and said that I failed the colorblind test, so that like outed me out of the recon, which I'm not colorblind, like
Oh, I am. I'm super bad. Yeah, I could. Yeah, I'm super. I didn't want to go recon though. I can't. I can barely swim to pass the basic swim qual.
yeah,
So
yeah,
like, there's no way. When they said you're gonna get hazed in a pool, I was like, I'm gonna die like in the first 2 seconds.
yeah,
Whoever's a great swimmer who watches this video, that's just not me. Like I had no aspirations. I
yeah.
honestly like thinking back and trying to like remember a lot of this stuff because it's been 13, 14 years now. I don't really think I knew what I was doing. I feel like everyone has a really good sense of what they want to do in the military now because of the internet, and it's kind of I feel like from 2009 to, when the Afghan withdrawal happened, like pretty much everyone was really into the military, especially special
Mhm.
forces. And like people were learning a lot. A lot of guys were getting really cool gear back when we were in. I don't dude, I didn't know anything about anything at all. Like, I
Oh
really
yeah.
did not have an insight on, the inner workings of the Marine Corps or different jobs or any of that stuff. I just went to the recruiter and I was like, I want infantry in the Marine Corps. And they were, trying to talk. They honestly tried to talk me out of it. They were trying to get me to go, like, now looking back, they were trying to probably get me into jobs that no one wanted to join, that I had a
Yeah.
high enough ASVAB score for. Like,
Yeah.
go work with chemicals. That's really cool. And like, you just end up tear gassing guys all day in boot camp. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
so
No. Yeah. I mean,
I was
from
smart
what?
enough to know, like, I don't want to do any BS job for 4 years. Like, I want to go in.
Yeah. Well, no, like when I joined, I knew I wanted to be in combat. Like,
Yeah,
uh,
exactly.
and I don't remember my recruiter like trying to pitch me some BS job.
Yeah.
Um, but I mean, maybe. But I just know like that's what I was gonna do. And uh, yeah, I mean, because
It
I
was
ended up.
very rare that we had an open contract guy, at least in our battalion. Like, I don't remember a single guy that didn't join to be infantry that was in our unit. Like, I really
Yeah.
don't. I know a lot of people talk about, like, guys going open contract and getting infantry. I don't think the Marine Corps does that very often because you don't want those type of guys there. Like,
Yeah.
you probably had pogues attached to you before when you were over there, and it wasn't the same. No offense to what they do in the Marine Corps, them in general, they just don't have the same training we do, and they
Yeah.
don't really have the same motivation that we do.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah, so speaking of next thing like I would want to talk about is like, our overall thoughts of like, our training and workup because feel like um at least for me like we were just talking about this like during this whole, getting the live stream up and not
yeah,
working with how we could probably pick up an AR-15 and not, like not picking it up in 10 years and shoot with it. But I feel like it is because of like how much we were behind it.
yeah, dude. That was one thing. Maybe the training evolutions or tables or whatever they used to call them back then weren't the best or geared toward Afghanistan, but I feel like just the amount that we had our rifle on us and the amount that like because our unit was unique too, where we had a lot of exposure to the M240 that regular grunts don't get, and that was
Yeah.
just what we had two on the pig
Hmm.
that
Yeah.
everyone knew how to use, and you just have that exposure where you're around. And we had Carl Gustav's law rockets, AT4s, because when you're out there, it's just you. That was one of the things that I learned on my second deployment when we were doing a lot of the deep desert stuff, and you're out there for a month at a time. There's no QRF, you know what I mean? You're
Yeah.
it. So
Oh,
that was something that I think is really unique to our unit, which looking back, it seems cool, but at the time I didn't even recognize it really. That
yeah.
that was just normal because I'd never been a part of a straight leg unit before where,
Yeah.
they have a way different way of operating than we do. It's very unique to LAR that I think we have such exposure to weapons, and part of our training was really just you always have that M4 on you,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know,
And
and
a little, backstory because I didn't mention this. Like both Ryan and I served in First Light Armored Reconnaissance Battalion in the Marine Corps, and and so like we had LEV 25s and the whole litany of like LEVs, and basically LAV, for all you guys that don't know, is it's a amphibious tank with wheels basically instead of tracks.
yeah.
Like,
And if you're watching the stuff that's going on in Ukraine, and it's similar to the Bradley and like the BTR.
yeah,
That was kind of the same equivalence. That was kind of like our near peer adversary, and if we would do that combat, that's who we're hunting as BTRs.
yeah, and
So
BMPs.
yeah,
Yeah,
we could, there's the possibility of taking out a tank, but that's not a good day. You don't want to, we have AP rounds, but you're probably not winning. So
yeah, yeah, yeah. Because I basically, like I just remember being up at the Ismet and like doing the, like the whole qualification for like gunners and stuff, and like where we
yeah,
have to take apart the main gun on the LAV and like do all the tank identifying tests and stuff like that. And I just remember, I forget who was up there like leading it, but he's like, yeah, if you ever see like a T-72, like make sure you pop fucking smoke and get the fuck out of there. Like,
Oh yeah, for sure.
I'm like,
Dude,
oh,
that was the, now that we're talking about some of the older guys too, that, some of the more senior guys that had experience, like, for example, I'm sure he wouldn't care if I mentioned his name, but like Gunny Tajma,
oh
like,
yeah, yeah,
like those guys that we learned from, that it was just the wealth of knowledge that was in our unit before we went over the first time. Once again, going back to how young I was, 18 during that workup, the evolutions weren't always the best. Like I felt like we are still shooting Green Ivan targets, kind of Cold
mhm,
War style stuff sometimes, which,
yeah,
has its benefits, especially now looking at Ukraine and Russia. But
mhm,
back then we knew where we were going. And I feel like that's where the second deployment, after we got a lot of the experience we had on the first one, um, we definitely had, I think, a little bit of a better workup the second time around.
oh
But
yeah, for sure,
just learning from the guys that had been in Iraq and done a lot of that stuff, like some of the guys that were in vehicles with us had done Fallujah, so, and like done Ramadi, and so learning from those guys, and like you're talking about, just grabbing it more and being able to run it. Like when you're taught by guys that were doing that, like room to room and building to building, they don't just teach you how to shoot a rifle. You're learning how to fight with it and live with it,
yeah,
and that was
yeah,
huge. Like if you left your rifle somewhere, you didn't have it slung on
oh,
you, like you were just gonna get hazed. Like
dude, yeah,
I heard
and
it. I hopefully the Marine Corps didn't go soft, because you definitely needed it. Like it beat it into
oh
you.
yeah,
They didn't usually go to blows or anything, but you're gonna get screamed at, and you're gonna get put up in push up position, and you're gonna get treated like a boot, like you should be treated, because you forgot your
yeah.
rifle. You know?
Yeah, exactly. And like I think it's, important to note for, people that are going to watch this, hazing, if it's taken too far is a bad thing. But
Yeah,
like if
absolutely.
you tiptoe on the gray line, or like in the gray area, like I feel like that's where, you know, we should be doing, because like when we were doing our workup, I just remember what it was. Gosh, I can't remember his name, but he was like a lance corporal for like the second or third time.
Oh yeah,
like uh but I just and he, like this Marine, like served in Fallujah and was just a fucking dick. And anytime we messed up, like we would have to do, like our Z-miss, our 9 line, and then if we didn't do it fast enough, you'd kill off somebody. Then now it's
oh
like now you're doing it for 2 people. Oh, you didn't do it fast enough. Now you're doing it for 3 people, and then you just keep on like doing it. But like that muscle memory of like having to do it like on the fly, like multiple people are. I feel
yeah,
like that set us up for success.
oh
Uh,
yeah.
just and that was training, and like at the time you're just like, well, fuck, like this sucks, but like I understand like the purpose of it.
Yeah, and it all came from experience from them. So like
Yeah.
even if the range that we just did wasn't the most beneficial, they were running those, school circles and teaching us stuff that they
Hmm.
learned. And yeah, man, it was really beat into you. And I think
Yeah.
that's where people always just assume they're going to rise to the occasion. Like you're just going to pull it out of nowhere. And it never happens that way. Like it
Yeah.
really is just, purposeful, hard training that you're doing over and over and over again until, like you
Yeah.
said, muscle memory. Because as you know, when shit is getting real, like your adrenaline's going, you're scared, you're literally just falling back on what you've been trained to do. You're not thinking,
Mhm.
like, I don't think in some of the more like tense situations, I was really thinking, you know what I mean? Like I was just
Yeah.
more fluidly acting on
Yeah.
what was already built into me. So like,
Yeah.
and that's all from those dudes, boot camp did a
Mhm.
little bit to reframe you as a person. Like, I think that's what people misunderstand about boot camp. Sorry, my fucking room is freezing.
Oh, you're good, dude.
I think people misunderstand, like Marine Corps boot camp sucks, but it's not like this physical torture that people I think make it out to be, unless you're like a fat body when you go in. And sorry
Yeah.
for all the PC people, but like I lost
Yeah.
muscle mass and I think endurance when I went, because I overtrained for boot camp.
Mhm.
But what it really does is just strip away who you are as a person and sets that foundation where like you're able to receive information so well and your brain
Yeah.
becomes so efficient at doing it that like you're able to do that stuff where you're not thinking. Because some of the
Yeah.
stuff, honestly, you wouldn't do if you were thinking about it. Like
No.
some of the stuff they asked us to do, like you'd be like, I'm not going to do that. Like that's
Yeah.
like we're
Well,
all going to
yeah.
die. Yeah, like you know what I mean. Like I'm not going to do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. But you're just like, okay, like yeah, I don't know. It's like unspoken like thing where you're just like trusting the process of like
Oh
everything,
yeah,
and
and you're
I
trusting that every other dude had the same process that you did.
oh
Which,
yeah,
and I think that's looking back. I know we'll probably get into Barham Shaw later in the deployment, but like looking back, that's one of the most like I don't remember a lot about Barham Shaw. I mean, you've kind of talked about this before.
yeah,
What I do remember, because it was for just a pretense that it's not like I blacked it out. It was like what it was it like 36, 48 hours straight,
yeah,
and
yeah. I want to
and it
say
was
we were there for we were there, yeah, like 48 hours because it
yeah,
was 2 days because we got there like super early in the morning, all through
and
that day, all through
yeah,
the next day, and then like left like I
yeah,
remember
zero
leaving
state.
at night, like the
Yeah, we
next.
left that night, and then some vehicles were breaking. We'll get into it, but some vehicles were
Yeah,
breaking
yeah,
down,
yeah,
and
yeah,
then yeah. So it was a very very long day. So like I don't remember everything that took place. I don't even remember like sometimes I'll hear someone else say some part of like what happened, and I'm like, holy crap, that did happen. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
but one of the things that I do remember is like being told that we're going there and like being the first company through, we're gonna have like high casualties, and we're like at the end of the deployment where you can see the light at the tunnel. And you're like, holy shit, I lived. Like I'm gonna go
yeah,
home. And then they're
yeah,
like, hey, we have to go down to this town. Expect. I don't even remember. I heard Lieutenant Mitchell say it the other day, but like what the casualty figure was, but it was pretty high what they expected for us pushing through the breach, and
yeah.
I would just remember like looking at everybody and like you could feel like it was almost like a funeral kind of feeling. But then like
Oh yeah,
no one tried to get out of it. Like
oh yeah,
not a single guy, not a single
yeah,
one
yeah.
walked away. Um, well, I don't want to forget, but like I remember distinctly thinking I was fucked when do you remember my VC was Gunny God, what was his name? He was the regimental drill master and he was the recovery.
Oh,
What was his name?
fuck, Gunny Wazar.
Yes, Gunny
Yeah,
Wayside. Dude, that guy gave me a hug and told me that he loved me, and I was like, holy
yeah.
fuck, I'm gonna die. Like, dude, this like stereotypical hard Marine, like never saw the dude really smile, never really joked around, always chewing
Yeah,
me out for not having my boots bloused the right way, my uniform being dirty, and just recognize we're in the infantry, so we're out in the field, and he's getting mad at
yeah,
me and stuff.
yeah,
Yeah, that guy gave me a hug. And
yeah,
I love him. He made me the Marine I was, and he made me very proud to be a Marine. That was one
yeah,
thing he really did do for me because I didn't have the greatest experience in infantry school. I had two like really bad. Now that I know they were stress fractures in my shins, so I really
yeah,
like I didn't struggle. I was at the back of the pack for sure.
yeah,
And having the injury I had, but um, so my morale was at a low because I didn't feel great about myself coming out of infantry school. Because in boot camp, I did really, really well. And
yeah,
then in infantry school, the first 5K, my shins, dude, just started killing me. And I
yeah,
still deal with issues from it today because I never went to you didn't go to like everyone who says just go get it checked out or you should have got it checked out. That was not the culture in the Marine Corps back then.
yeah. No, no, it's not at all. Yeah, so going back to like our workup because we're getting a little ahead of ourselves.
Yeah, sorry.
But oh no, it's good. It's good because I'm right there with you, man. Do you think the work and like the training that we did in the workup translated properly to the deployment?
Some ways yes, some ways no. Like I think a
Yeah,
lot of the benefit that I got for sure was those smaller classes that were given on the side by like the
mhm,
corporals and sergeants.
yeah,
I wish would have done more patrolling. I wish we would have
yeah,
done more, vehicle work with patrolling, not necessarily just LAVs. Like if we kind of knew that we were gonna, which I don't think we knew we were gonna go to the MAT Vs. I don't
yeah,
think they and the MRAPs. I don't think they had that plan because I went to the first driving school for our battalion and
mhm,
I think it was Camp Leatherneck they sent me. They helicoptered me out there to learn how to drive the MATVs. So we learned
yeah,
that in country. But like I feel like we should have done a lot more patrol work, a lot more night work, a lot more hasty ambushes, stuff like
Yeah.
just that. I don't think they envisioned, because I think a lot of the battalion experience too was coming out of Iraq, where you're in mount. Like we did a lot of mount training. We
Oh
did a
yeah.
lot of urban training on our workup that we
Yeah,
didn't.
we did.
Like my distinct memory of 29 Palms when we were at Mojave Viper for the month leading up to it. And I remember this a lot because I was like, I got attached to Red Platoon. They needed a gunner. I don't
Yeah.
remember what happened, but someone went home. And so I was put in a gun position. So I got pretty close with Jacob Light. So
Yeah.
he was like my, if he was the lieutenant's gunner and I was, the platoon sergeant's gunner. So we were just like always by each other bullshitting about stuff.
Yeah.
Um, which he taught me a lot about the gun, which helped me out when I became a gunner for my second deployment. So just
Yeah.
how stuff goes full circle. But the reason I remember that is we're sitting in a big urban city and me and him are talking about how we're going to Afghanistan. We didn't
Yeah.
know where we're going at that time, but I'm like, do you think we're going to like a city? And he's like, I don't think so, man. And we're just kind of
Yeah.
like, what are we doing?
Yeah, because like all those towns are, for everybody watching, like all they're basically mimicked after Iraq.
Yeah.
It's like built up, structures with like mosque and like Connex boxes. I mean, but it looks like an actual city.
Yeah, no, they did a good job
Yeah.
with it. The training part of it was good. Like if we
Yeah.
were
Oh
going,
yeah.
if we were going from house to house and patrolling down streets, but that's not what it ended up being. And I
Yeah.
know you did more
Oh
patrols on foot than I did. I did a lot of vehicle patrols, but that was
yeah.
like another thing is that we did do well is I feel like everyone's knowledge on the different weapon systems really helped, because when I got after that workup and we deployed, like kind of our structure changed, right? Like we weren't using LAVs as much. Everyone was
Oh
pretty much
yeah.
on foot because the IED threat. And
Yeah.
just to preface this, our deployment story, if basically back then, if your LAV hit an IED, your driver was going to be dead.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to put out any information for anyone to use against LAVs, but
Yeah.
they already know it, but I just don't want to put it out there. But it just
Yeah.
was
No.
not a
Yeah.
good situation for the driver. Then I think it was what was it, fourth LER we replaced, and they had just lost their sergeant major from an IED.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so like it was going in, we knew that the IED threat was super high. So we just really didn't even utilize the LAVs besides like base security for
Yeah.
until, some specific missions that they worked really, really well for. But
Yeah. Did you guys like I'm kind of jumping forward, but
yeah,
I don't know if I know this, but did you guys use LEVs? Because you were at the castle, right?
yeah, I was at Tagaz and then the castle. Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah, because I know that they used LEVs for like posts. I can't
Yeah.
remember what post, but like there was like a couple posts where they had LEVs up there.
Yeah, that we're out into the city. We're out into the town, so you can see on
Yeah,
thermals and stuff. Yeah.
yeah,
So yeah, I did that for my first deployment was real interesting because we were kind of like just sent anywhere we were needed,
yeah,
which was a cool experience because I got to go to some different, like I got to go to Shabu a few times and hang out with you guys and
yeah,
you
yeah,
degenerates, and it was fun. Like you guys
yeah.
were just living out in the Wild West, and it was
Oh,
fun to
bro.
go out there and get away from command and like go back down to Gaz when it was I think Red Platoon was the only platoon down there, and going
Yeah,
down there and mixing it up with them. Like I got to see a lot of the AO.
yeah,
Which I think, looking back, I hated it because a lot of it was driving. But I
hmm,
got to do a lot of different stuff and experience a lot of different Marines and watch them and learn from them. Like I got to do, who did we get attached to? I'll think of it when we talk about deployment. But
yeah,
I got attached to someone. I got to experience some pretty cool stuff that I don't think I would have anyway, either, without
yeah.
that.
So like kind of fast forwarding,
Yeah.
I got through our workup. I mean, our workup was, I would say it was a year. Like we had like a year
About a year,
workup.
yeah. Because
Yeah,
I joined you guys about like 3 months into the workup because I graduated infantry school and then LAV school and
yeah,
found out I was going to first LAR, and they're like, "You guys are going to Afghanistan in 9 months," and I was like, "Let's get
yeah,
started." Like I was ready.
yeah, yeah. So
Until I
yeah,
showed up to the unit and I realized I didn't know anything, and then I was like, "Well, maybe I'm not as ready as I thought I was." So
well, yeah, yeah. I think I like, yeah, all of us like coming in because yeah, I mean, I got there in September of '08, and
okay,
then
I showed up early '09. I would
Okay,
say.
yeah. So
Yeah.
then, yeah, we started. Yeah, so yeah, it had to be a year.
Yeah, and that's why I feel like we filled some of the gaps that were open instead of getting put into like first, second, or third, because you guys had already kind of formed your platoons that I think they wanted you to be with,
Yeah,
which I understood. I was pretty disappointed, but like I said, I got to. It wasn't my favorite situation being in headquarters, but I learned a lot. Like I learned a lot about
oh
the
yeah,
LAV. I learned a lot from like master gunners and
yeah,
the head scouts there too. So I learned a lot about infantry tactics from him, and so
yeah,
it was good.
yeah. So like, like we do our workup, and like we, fly out from Ontario, land in Maine, and Maine is like our last stop before going over.
Yeah,
Now, I guess like, was there at any point through the trip, like, did you feel anything? What did you, like,
oh
what were
yeah,
your experiences?
I was definitely
Yeah.
nervous. I wouldn't say I was scared, but I was definitely nervous. And then I think it was like I was coming to the realization that like that could be literally the last time that I'm on U.S. soil. Like
Hmm.
that was something that kind of I thought about, you know.
Yeah.
But also like you could probably attest to this. Like you're with all your boys and you've trained
Yeah.
and you're fucking angry and you've been treated kind of like not great in the last couple of months. You're out in the field for a long time.
Yeah.
And it was different than my second time. Like when going back the second time, um, like I feel like I was more ready to go back than anything
Yeah.
else. And on the
Yeah.
first one, it's just the unknown. Like, and I
Yeah.
know like some people will never understand that, but like going back the second time, there wasn't like I wasn't scared at all.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
Like it was in the back of my head, like it would suck to die. Like I was married to my ex-wife at the time, and other than that, I could even put that to the side where I'm like, she'll be fine. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it would be different now with kids, but back then, like that's what we were doing, and that's what I look forward to doing, and we just
Mhm.
went through another workup for it. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
but
Because I
yes,
think, like, where, like, my head was like we talked about earlier this week, is, like, just being completely fine with like dying,
yeah,
and and like you said, like, you're with your boys, like I had no question in my mind that any of them would have, taken a bullet for me, or like,
yeah.
anybody that we were deploying with, like, in the company, like, I had no question.
Or they're not going to leave you. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Whether you're dead or you're alive, like your boys are not going to
yeah,
leave,
yeah.
and or they're all going to die with you. And that was another
Mhm.
like and it sounds like I don't know, cheesy to say, but like that literally, like I never had a doubt that like one of the guys with me was going to run away, and
Yeah.
there's no fucking way I was leaving them. You
Oh
know what I mean?
yeah.
And there's no way I'm more brave than any of the rest of these guys. So why would they run? Like that was kind
Yeah.
of the mentality. And I think that's you know everyone can make fun of the Marine Corps, but that's something they do really well. Is they make you a cohesive unit. They make like that esprit de corps is like a real thing. I think that's why probably Marines are the most annoying veterans sometimes. Very, very
Well,
proud. You know what I mean? And it's
oh
because
yeah.
it's installed in you. You spend how much class time do we spend in boot camp just learning Marine Corps history?
I mean, yeah, a lot. I
A
mean, I
lot
think that's like
of
the first,
hours.
first phase of
Well,
boot camp.
it's indoctrination for sure,
Yeah.
and they do a real
Yeah.
good job of it. And like, I still love Marine Corps history to this day.
Oh yeah.
I still love
Yeah.
reading books about Marines from Korea and World War II, and they put that legacy on your shoulders. So I think even just going over there and being a little bit nervous, like it's more you're nervous about not performing
Yeah.
and
And like
embarrassing.
actually like holding up to, like,
Yeah,
you accepting that Eagle Globe and Anchor, like, yeah, I
yeah.
get that, yeah,
And they tell all the stories about the guys that did heroic stuff and they knew they were going to die while they're doing it. And you're like, and you're thinking, like, I know, like, I thought about it in the back of my head. I'm like, I don't know if I can do that.
yeah,
You know what I mean? Like, I hope I could, like, because it's usually saving other guys' lives. Like, that's what the common theme in there is. It's not, really killing the enemy. It's trying to
it's
keep
sick,
each other
yeah,
alive. Like, those, you
yeah,
become closer. I think that's why, the suicides that we've experienced afterwards hurt just as much as combat deaths do.
yeah,
It's like, you know, we went through all that together and we're willing to, put our life on the line for each other. And that it's painful because you come
oh
so far.
yeah,
Like, who else has done that for you in your life? You know what I mean? No one really. You'd hope
exactly,
people would, you hope your parents would, you hope your spouse would, but these
yeah.
guys would. And
Oh yeah, for sure, yeah. I
yeah,
mean, it's like I barely, I mean, I don't really talk to I talk to my dad, but I don't talk to my mom. Like
Mhm.
I just, yeah. I mean, I talk to like I talk to you, and then I have I know a couple other Marine buddies, Capra and uh,
Yeah.
like we're in like a fantasy football thing together that
Okay.
talk to, but yeah, dude, like I definitely get that. I feel like the suicides are like a little bit more, um, yeah, more hard than losing people like over there, because it's like, dude, like you could have just talked to any one of us and we could have
Yeah.
helped you out, but yeah, um, fuck, yeah,
And I think that goes with also the personality, right? You're not talking them out of it usually.
oh
Like,
yeah, no,
yeah, you know what I mean, like it's the same thing that probably got us into the job in the first place. We're all fucking stubborn and think we know better. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like, and we like to win. Like, we're not going to just give up. So I've thought about it a lot, especially since McCraw. You know,
yeah, yeah.
because
I
I
mean, I
feel
think,
bad because I just dropped out of communication. You know what I mean? Like, I hadn't talked to him since separating or since he separated.
yeah,
And
same.
it goes both ways, and that I feel guilty about it. Like I feel guilty about all of them. You know what I mean? Like you wonder if you could have, if we did a better job of all staying connected, maybe it wouldn't happen. But
Yeah, yeah.
it's gonna be awkward. I gotta plug my phone in real quick, so I gotta go underneath my desk. So just hold
Oh.
up. It looks weird, guys. Sorry.
Oh shoot.
Yeah, technical difficulties. Now it's my turn.
Oh no, that's all good, dude. I'll probably
Sorry.
just edit this out.
All right, sounds good. I feel
Yeah.
awkward. All right. Yeah, I was like, dude, I don't feel like I forgot anything. I'm doing good. And then I looked at my phone, it's at like 30%. So,
Am I don't know. I think I'm still good though.
1 second to get it
Yeah, no,
set.
you're good.
Edit this out. That'd be perfect. Shit. Guess we're going all the way back here. All right. Sorry about that, man.
Dude, don't worry about it. I'm gonna throw in a little lipstick.
Oh, there you go. Dude, I wish I quit
Yeah.
like a quitter.
Yeah, I need to quit. All right, so yeah, picking back up, like going this is like the one talking point that I really want to stress to everybody. So what were your initial thoughts of boots on the ground in Manas?
Oh, God. Yeah. So for people that don't know, Manas is like kind of like the last stop before you go, or back then it was.
Yeah,
Um, and it's ran by the Air Force. And it's basically just a transportation hub, like a supply hub, right? Just transferring troops and gear in. And we show up, and it's like the bougiest kind of like I use deployment lightly, and I don't mean to offend anyone. Like you're not on U.S. soil, but there's like a bar with great beer and great food. They do karaoke every night. Like it's not, you're not.
yeah,
And I remember like you're probably getting to this point where like we went in. I'm like, is this what it's going to be like? Like we're in this
yeah,
squad bay basically with these
yeah,
beds. All of our guns are stacked in a corner. I'm like, this can't be what it's like. And
yeah,
then we're combat orientated, so we're gone. So we're wearing boonies. We don't salute like Marines when we have certain types of hats that we wear. And it sounds goofy, but it signifies what state status you're basically in. One is garrison and one is the field. So we had our boonie caps on because we're deployed. And the Air Force officers were, I don't know if this happened to you, they're getting mad at us for not saluting, like
yeah,
so mad that they were stalking us and yelling at us. And I remember getting yelled at as a lance corporal by a captain, and I was like, "I'm not saluting you." And he's like, "Why?" I was like, "Because we are in, the field, and if I salute you, there's a possibility that you get shot because you're an officer. Like I'm not like that's where it comes
yeah.
from, and that's what we're taught to do. Like you don't salute an officer, like you
Hmm.
just don't do it. We're in the field." And so I remember he took me to where we were all staying. And I just remember an NCO was like, "Hey, Captain," like they even call him sir. He was like, "Hey, Captain," he's right. And that was all he said. And he was like, go back to the squad bay. But it was just a different mentality, right? Like I understand,
Yeah.
like as a grown man now, he probably thought he thought I was disrespecting him, which I wasn't. I was following my orders from my CO,
Yeah.
and that trumps. That's the other thing that the Marine Corps does really well. Your chain of command is everything.
Yeah.
And if they order you to do something, you're doing it. So like
Yeah.
Skipper
There's
ordered me
no
not to
questions.
salute. Yeah, there's no. You can yell at me all you want. Like he's gonna yell
Yeah.
at me worse. So like I'm
Well,
not. Yeah,
yeah, like actually, like I'll say this story about like our workup because like we did um I want to say didn't we go to Fort Irwin during our workup at one point?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, because like I remember getting yelled at by like a sergeant first class because I didn't have my glow belt on at night, and uh and I was just like I basically like looked at him like, why do I need a glow belt? He's like, so that you don't get lost in the middle of the desert. I'm like, why would I get lost in the middle of the desert? And he's like, well, that's our order on base. I'm like, we're not wearing glow belts. And he just like it was just a back and forth. And it's the same
Yeah.
thing with like your situation takes me back and like it was I want to say it was Chitwood and like some other guys in there, and they're like, "What the fuck? Like we don't wear glow belts. Like what?"
I
Like
know.
chewed his ass out for it. But anyways, it was just it was stupid. But it's like Marine Corps has its certain orders that like you follow, and even if
Yeah, it
another
doesn't make
branch
sense
tells
to
you,
anyone else, but it makes sense to us. That's all that
yeah,
matters. Like,
yeah,
and I once again, I think that's where like there's just a big I think there's a misunderstanding and like honestly a lot of ignorance when it surrounds like what the Marine Corps infantry is and what it constitutes. Like people always just assume you're really dumb if you're a Marine Corps grunt. And I always
yeah,
tell people like some of the smartest people, granted, some of the dumbest people I ever met, yes, but a lot of the smartest people I ever met, very articulate, very intelligent
mhm.
guys were in our unit.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah, for sure,
I don't really think of any senior leadership in our company. And I was like, that guy doesn't know what he's doing. He's not intelligent. Like most of them
yeah,
are very, a lot of them were family guys. This was their career. They were
mhm.
smart guys that just decided to do this besides college. It's not anything, other than that. And people just
Yep.
assume like we're just, mindless people running into the abyss, but it's not true. Like,
Yeah, no, it's not. I mean, there's just like a lot of misconceptions, but you know, I think it's because we follow our orders to the T, and
yeah,
like that's why they think we're drones and robots. We eat crayons because we're just like
yeah.
kill like with a box of
Hey,
crayons, but
well, you know what? If you want a fighting force that will do what needs to be done and not stop, and there's obviously different ways you could go about it, but
mhm,
you can't argue with the Marine Corps record when it comes to combat. Like,
yeah,
not even to say that because I'm a Marine or whatever, but just saying that in general. Like, there's a lot of history that showcases Marines, fighting bravely, even in, grievous odds. And that's for a reason. And it is the
yeah,
training, in a way, the indoctrination and probably that's what probably makes us annoying to other people is like, no matter what your relationship was with the Marine Corps, like you're still proud of being a Marine. Like you still earned that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
So
yeah, and I feel like there's a lot of like there's just a lot of combat history like within the Marine Corps,
yeah.
and yeah, I mean it's just yeah, it's insane.
It's funny to think about too, is like Barham Shaw, that operation is in the Marine Corps history, like the book now.
Yeah,
And so like we're a part of it. And it's still like I still don't even feel like I belong there in a way.
yeah,
Even though other people I watched, Lieutenant Mitchell talked about like a whole podcast about Barham Shaw basically in that deployment. And
hmm,
people were just talking of like, he's talking to a combat veteran Navy SEAL, and the guy's like, you guys did that like that. And you're just listening to this other dude that fought in Iraq and kicked in doors. And he's like, and to me, I'm like, it's not in my head, it's not as great as these other things. But when other people look at it and they talk about it, or they hear someone who was there talk about it, they're like, holy crap, like that's pretty intense.
yeah.
Which looking
Yeah.
back now, it was like it's kind of it was a pretty intense night, but
Oh yeah, for sure.
or
Yep.
days, not even just a night. The night going in was probably
Yeah.
besides
Yeah.
me and you talking about it. I don't think my brain has let me think back to that. That was a
Oh
pretty
yeah. Yeah.
yeah, that was a
Um.
stressful night.
Yeah, it was. So going from Manas, I mean, I'll end on like this story is like the Manas was like a fraternity party of bases. That's how I looked at it.
Oh
Like,
yeah, yeah.
you had a 24-hour chow hall. God, I can't talk. You had a movie theater. You had like a full gym with like a boxing
Mhm.
ring. Uh, I mean, dude, there was like and a basketball court. I mean, they had like the spread, and on top of that, they were getting combat pay. And
Yeah, that's right.
yeah, but I mean, I guess like they did get mortared like on the outside of the base. So, but it's like nothing against Air Force. Like I just
Nothing
thought,
against what they did. It's just
yeah,
different. I think a lot of
it's
people
just
equate
way
like
way different.
yeah, and there people equate to like even and not once again not trying to take away what anyone says, but it is kind of annoying sometimes when someone's like, "Yeah, I was in Afghanistan too," and you're like, "Oh yeah," and they're like, "Yeah, I was at Bagram, feeling planes." I'm like,
Yeah,
"Yeah, you were at Afghanistan, but like I don't, I don't know. It sounds elitist to say it, but like sometimes when people talk to you like it was the same thing, it's just like
yeah,
I feel gross doing it, but I'm like, it's not the same. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like
Because
it's
I mean,
really
I
not.
think
I don't mean to be mean to anybody, and I don't mean to take away anyone else's service, but I feel like it takes away from our dead if we
yeah,
act like it's the same thing, because like it's not. Because every day you're going out, and every day you're risking your life, and every
mhm,
day someone's trying to kill you. Like that
yeah,
is the reality of the situation. And like
and that
you could say that for Bagram too, but unless it's IDF or a very, very unique circumstance, like that one time they attacked the base and that
mhm,
lieutenant colonel, heroically died with this pistol. That was awful. So not saying they're not under danger. It's just a different job and there's nothing wrong with what they're doing. I just
yeah,
think I'm also not saying I was Delta Force kicking in doors every day and
yeah.
shooting
We
bad guys in the
definitely weren't
face.
tier one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I was not that either. So
yeah,
it's not to take away from what anyone did. It's just I think, it's important to make that distinction to people that haven't been over there or think that, anyone who went to Afghanistan experienced some like heavy combat. That's not the truth.
yeah.
Like, we shouldn't
And
act like it is.
and I will say, like, for the people that you know say they were in combat when they really weren't. Um, we know we know that you probably weren't because we understand like the layout of
Yeah.
where the action was. So
Or when you say your job is a certain thing, but then you say you're
yeah,
like mixing it up every day, it just draws like
yeah. Just don't just like be true to you, and like your job was essential to helping us,
yeah.
and
Same with all the
that's
people that were in Kyrgyzstan getting combat pay when they were drinking
yeah,
beers every night. Like
yep,
you guys were
exactly.
still like you guys figured it out. Like you're still getting paid the same thing we are, and you're
Eh,
chilling every night singing karaoke and drinking beer. So like,
Yep, yep.
and they worked hard too. Just to give them that, like they're
I
young
will say
kids like
that.
we were. They were loading a bunch of bags every day and stuff. So
Yeah, yeah.
once someone's gonna say that and be like, you guys are elitist assholes, but it's just the
Uh,
truth.
yeah, I mean, like, we're definitely not. I think it's just,
Yeah.
I think the people watching this that have served in combat, I think they'll understand that because, um,
I also see it the flip side of it, like from our perspective. If you're going to say that, you're also taking away from what we did. And, and
yeah,
once again, what the guys that didn't come home, what they did, because they weren't
yeah,
just sitting on a fuel line, feeling an aircraft and a mortar came in. They were going out every day, walking
yeah,
through the enemy's territory. And like, that was a risk you took every day. So I just wanted
yeah,
to make that, little distinction.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So going into Afghanistan, let's talk about like our gear setups and
Okay.
rifle setups, because I feel like that is, a thing that I'm trying to like, have my subscribers like understand like what exactly like we were carrying.
Okay.
So
Um,
yeah, so
do
like
you
what
want to
like
go first? Do you want me to go?
well okay, yeah, I guess I'll go first. So like we have like a normal, I can't remember like the plate carrier we were using at the time. Um
I don't remember it either, but it was one of the newer, like, it was one of the first plate carriers that the Marine Corps adopted.
Yeah, because like remember it was the what is the OTV or I can't remember. Like it was like some thick ass like flak
Oh, that
jacket.
big old one that we got
Yeah,
before. Oh yeah,
yeah,
that was
that
horrible.
was horrible. But then like they started streamlining to something. It was almost like a cry type thing, but it wasn't as
It's
good.
more beefed up. It'd
Yeah,
be
it's
like
more beefed
equivalent
up.
now of like the Mayflower APC almost.
Yeah,
If
yeah,
someone wants to look that up, that was basically the equivalent of the plate carrier we had.
yeah. Yeah, so then I had that with my six magazines, and then
Mhm.
I would carry, God, I would probably carry like 10 extra magazines in my assault bag, like because I always carried an assault bag with me, um, and um, and then dude, like a shit ton of water, like a camelback full of water, uh, like in the little gap where between the camelback and your back plate,
Yeah,
like 3 bottles of water, my
just
dump
stashed
pouch,
in there.
yeah,
That's
my
smart.
dump
I
pouch,
never did that.
like my dump pouch full of water,
Hmm.
bag like would have water bottles in
Oh,
it,
that's a good point. Yeah, it was like
and
120 degrees a lot of the days that we were.
yeah,
Oh, yeah, it was
and
insanely hot.
I'd go through all of that.
Oh
And
yeah,
then yeah, and then we had like the old um fuck what are the helmets called? Can't remember.
L. No, it's not LB.
It's it's like the old like the domes. The
Yeah, but
yeah,
there was no cutouts for ears. We didn't have
yeah.
ear pro. That wasn't
Yeah.
a real thing for us back then.
Yeah, we like did you wear ear pro during
Not
training?
at all.
Not at
No,
all. Yeah, same here.
I can't. I have a lot of lost hearing in my right ear.
Yeah.
'Cause
But
yeah,
I will say, like, to anybody watching, like, go and shoot without your ear pro. Like me personally, yeah, it's a safety thing, but like, if you get in a situation where you have to pull a gun, or like, you're everyday carrying, you pull a gun, or you have to use your AR-15 for something, and that first round goes off, and you're not used to it, like, it's definitely gonna mess you up.
should
Like,
at least like know what it sounds like. Yeah,
yeah,
I wouldn't do it
yeah.
every day. You don't want to be
Not every day.
probably
No,
have
no,
bad
no,
hearing
no.
too. Like I have horrible hearing. So for
Yeah,
me,
I definitely don't do it every day because
yeah,
we definitely did it every day, and yeah,
yeah. Well, they
like,
gave us those crappy 3M earplugs that everyone sued the government for. But
yep,
if you put those in, what I've always told other people, like you can't hear what everyone else is saying.
no,
So
not at
like
all.
it's even worse than not having it. Like it's worse than having nothing. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like you'd rather just have nothing because it doesn't help protect your hearing at all. So you're already
yeah.
ringing, and then you also can't hear what anyone's saying.
Oh
Which,
yeah, for sure.
yeah, communication is definitely the most. But sorry,
Yeah.
the
Oh no, no,
helmet.
no, you're good. And then I just had a M4 with an ACOG, iron
Yeah,
sights, um,
Pack 16.
yeah, PEC 16,
Yeah,
and
mine was the yeah.
PVS 14s.
Yeah, same. Pretty much exact same setup. When I was working in the vehicles, I tried to kind of take some mags off of my chest and put them on
Hmm.
my belt. So I was, you remember that crappy? It was almost like you could clip it over your gear and
Oh
it gave
yeah,
you a spot.
the load bearing vest,
Yes, but
LBT.
you could take
Yeah,
off the vest part and run a belt. So I didn't
yeah,
know anything about gear. Just anyone who's like a gear nerd in the chat, I wasn't like I was into guns before I joined, but I had never handled an AR-15. I didn't know anything about webbing or like Molly or any of that stuff. Like I just didn't had no idea. And so I remember watching one of the guys that was, more senior than I was, pretty much everybody, but someone who had been in Iraq and seen combat, and he had that belt, and he was running his IFAK and his magazines off the, one pouch, that speed pouch they gave us. He was running it on the belt, and
yeah,
I was like, oh, that's a smart idea. And so, which is what pretty much everyone does now. You have your dump pouch. So I put my dump pouch on there and I had that for a while. I tried some different gear setups, but same thing, six magazines. I had the benefit of a lot of time having the 240. I was a 240 gunner on a point
yeah,
vehicle a lot of the time. And so I had, a secondary weapon system that I was using. And so I just stayed with the six mags for a lot of times. If I went on patrols, I'd usually bring more, or if
yeah,
they usually asked you to bring more, if
yeah,
you were going out with guys. And then Yeah, same plate carrier, same helmet. You remember those crappy little Surefire helmet lights we had?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, that we drilled into the side of the Kevlars at the range
Yep.
one day. They brought out a drill and we are just, but yeah, we had
Yep.
some like, looking back, we were probably one of the, I don't want to say the first, but we were probably one of the first units to get that new plate carrier because we're working in and out of
Yeah.
vehicles all the time. And then, yeah, just, basic setup, IFAC, dump pouch. Not
Yeah.
everybody got magazine or not everyone got grenades. That was kind of a
Yeah.
unique thing. That because I thought everyone would get grenades, but it was more like mission dependent when they
Yeah.
when they'd give grenades and stuff. But yeah, then with the 240, I just had an iron sighted 240 on my first deployment, and I
Mhm.
probably had I figured out how to rock the ammo up there pretty good, so I could get 600 rounds into that gun pretty quick if I had to.
Yeah.
So that's the one I missed the 25 shooting the 25, but I definitely missed shooting the 240, man.
Oh, dude.
That thing was as close to me as the M4. That I took care of that thing every day and it came with me everywhere if I was running
Yeah.
vehicle stuff. So
Yeah.
um,
I loved the 240.
yeah,
And like
it
I
always
actually,
worked. I had good luck with my M4 too, but that I don't think I ever had. I can't remember a distinct time that I had a bad malfunction with a 240 that wasn't ammo related, and that was like a failure to
yeah.
fire. I don't think I
Yeah.
ever had any issues, and that's kind of unique with a open bolt weapon system. You usually have,
Yeah.
but yeah, you change that barrel and you can just kind of shoot all day if you keep it wet.
Oh
Um,
yeah, for sure. Yeah. No, it's a great gun. I never had issues with it either, like runaway gun or like anything like that.
Nothing. Yeah, even the coax. The coax tended to be a little bit more finicky, but that thing was still good.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I think we were very basic when it came to gear. Like we didn't really, flat bag pouches. There's none of this, Kydex inserts or Kydex mag pouches.
Yeah,
Um,
we actually couldn't use PMags on our first deployment because
yeah,
like PMags just like came out and I guess they were having issues with them ejecting and like feeding the rounds. Um,
yeah, I heard that too. Something with the heat and the feed books, I think it was.
yeah,
Well, that's what they were saying. PMAG, with Magpul being the company they are, they probably had it fixed super quick. But
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
it's anything with the government. If they say no, it's going to take a while to get that to change. So yeah, we
So
just use this standard, metal mags, and
yeah,
I
from
think they
Vietnam.
relatively worked well. If you took care of your M4 and you kept it clean and you kept it lubed, like it was going to work.
Oh
Um,
yeah,
I
yeah,
think that was another thing that we probably should have done better of. I think some of the weapon knowledge, in some ways, like some guys would say don't lube your weapon that much. And then like other guys would like lube it a lot. So that was one thing I felt like, we had SOPs for like everything, but I felt like the M4 was kind of like you figure out how it works for you. Did you
yeah,
feel that way?
yeah. No, I definitely did because I mean, like, dude, I would loot my shit up all the time because like I was going on foot patrols and uh, like like Sam would get into everywhere,
Oh yeah. It's like
and
it's more like moon dust. Like it just is that powdery,
yeah,
like
yeah,
you're just safe with it as soon as you started walking.
yeah, exactly, and so like every time when I came back from patrol, I would just like take out the bolt, like clean out the receiver and like clean off the bolt, and then just apply another thing because like it was bad, dude. Like I mean, even like so say you lube it like right before patrol, by middle of patrol, like you take out your mag, like clear your thing, and you're racking it back. It's just like like you can hear all the sand just grinding
Yeah.
like in there, and I just
Or
didn't
if you
like
moved
that.
it enough on the ejection port, I don't know if you remember this. You just made me think of this. I haven't thought about this in like 13 years. You'd have like a mound of dirt outside your ejection
Oh
port
yeah,
cover because all the
yeah,
lube would accumulate all the dirt. And you're
yeah,
like, which is one of the great things about the M4 is that it's a sealed system, right? So
yeah.
there's no like I know there's going to be an AK fanboy, but even compared to the AK where you have pretty much the whole front of the part of the bolt is open to the elements. And then if you have that safety down, it's just throwing dirt and anything else in there. The
Hmm.
M4 is just more sealed. You can keep if you keep that ejection port cover closed, like we did. Like how often do they like every time you got done shooting, you're closing that ejection port?
Oh
They
yeah.
just drilled that into you. And so if you
Yeah.
kept your weapon sealed and you had it lubed, it was going to work.
Yeah.
So
Oh yeah, for sure. Yep. Um, so like what was I guess like your task? Like what did you so like you said that you were at Tagaz,
mhm.
and then you were kind of like moving around the AO.
So I took Gauze, it was mostly base security, which is a fancy way of saying I stood a lot of post at
Okay,
first.
I
And then
got
I would get attached to some patrols. And there's a lot of mundane stuff that still has to happen in war. And that
you.
was one
Yeah,
of the things I don't think I understood as like a new Marine is like generators need to be filled.
yeah,
Water bottles need to be like supplied and like people need to go and do those things. And guess what? It's the Marine Corps, so we don't have a lot of support staff.
yeah,
So, you're working a patrol and then you're going on post and then you're filling generators and you're repeating it. So we did that for like a month and a half, and it was honestly pretty exhausting. So it was like an 8 hour post every night. And then
yeah,
you get like 6 hours of sleep, and then you're working the whole rest of the day and maybe getting attached to a patrol so another guy can rest. And
yeah,
so it was a lot of days in a row of like only having 6 hours of sleep and no alone time, like no time
yeah,
for just you. And that's unique too. Even like being in the field, like there's downtime because they're waiting on training evolutions. Like
yeah,
you're working every day of that deployment, like from the time you open your eyes until the time you go to sleep, like the war's
yeah.
happening.
Well,
So there's
yeah, and
not,
like even if you're asleep, like you could get woken up in the middle of the night because like that happened to us a few times at Shabu.
yeah.
Where we're taking rockets at night,
Oh
and
yeah, the 107s.
yeah, and like everybody is up on a wall,
That
like
sounds
it's
like a freight train coming in. It wakes you
yeah.
up.
Well, yeah, yeah, and like everybody's like on the wall, like in their boxers and like
Yeah.
like sandals and
Did
yeah,
you guys I can't. Did you guys come for Lights Memorial?
yeah, yeah, we
Yeah,
did,
when they rocketed us during the
yeah,
memorial. Yeah,
yeah. So like a little backstory. So like we're kind of so we talked about the workup.
yeah,
Like basically within the first 27 days of being in country, we took our first casualty, and like I made note of this because for me, um, up until that point, like so I was on night patrols and up until that point like we hadn't experienced anything, so
yeah,
like everybody's just doing their normal routine work, and then I feel like for me personally like that was the moment like that it was real, like hey, like
yeah,
these motherfuckers like just took out one of our guys, like
yeah,
this shit is fucking real, like like everybody has to take this shit seriously, and not that we weren't, but it's just like it's a different perspective of
yeah.
like
And I was at Tagaz with first platoon
yeah,
when that happened, and I wasn't out there with them. I remember because a few other Marines were injured. Britain that was injured in that attack. Shout out to
hmm,
Trevor if he listens to this. Me and him went through boot camp together and infantry school, and then we showed up to our unit together. And he was out on that patrol, and he
yeah,
got hit too. And so I just remember being there, and I can't remember if I heard the explosion or not because you just hear IEDs go off sometimes, or random stuff happening.
yeah,
And I just remember, someone came in and went down and told, their tent was down and I still distinctly remember this. I don't remember a lot about the deployment sometimes, but I
yeah,
remember, our CO and our first sergeant walking down, and some of the guys at Red Platoon just start crying.
yeah,
And like I had never seen, sorry, I might get choked up.
yeah, no, that's
I had never seen grown men cry before like that.
mhm, yeah,
And so, being 19, I didn't know exactly what had happened. I had a feeling that someone had gotten killed. And I remember I went in and Paul, I'm spaced on your name right now, but I walked in and he was like, "Hey, Light got killed." And I was like,
mhm.
"What the fuck do you mean?" He's like, "You got to buy an IED. It injured Braden." I can't remember the other corporal that got hurt.
Slayer,
Yeah, that's right. And he was a fucking hell of a Marine, dude. So I remember the fact that he got sent home. I was just like, no fucking way.
yeah,
because he was like in your face too. Like when you
Oh
were
yeah,
like, oh yeah, man, he was
yeah,
just a hard guy. And they're like, yeah, he got his like. They just told us about their injuries and stuff, and it was just very like real at that time. And then Ramirez came back, which was Light's driver, and
hmm,
he was. I went to brush my teeth. We had like a makeshift kind of bathroom tent with like you could take a shower where there's like it's basically a gravity shower. But
yeah,
he was in there showering, and I didn't know it was him. And I was brushing my teeth, and he came out, and I realized like Ram probably still is like a tough dude. Like he doesn't
yeah,
like people to see him emotional. He doesn't like to, he at least back then he didn't like to show weakness. And I could
yeah,
tell he'd been crying, and
yeah,
I didn't even know what to say to him, man.
yeah.
He was just
No,
like this, and he was like, "What's up, Erskine?" And I was like, "Nothing, man. Like, what do you say?" Like, I had just seen Light
yeah,
that morning washing his laundry in an ammo box, and then the
yeah,
dude died, and you're just like, you know,
yeah,
it's war, but until someone dies and you realize like, because looking back, he's one of the old guys. What was he like, 22, 23 years old?
I, yeah. I want to say like, yeah, it
Yeah,
was,
around that, maybe a little
yeah,
bit older, but not like we're
yeah,
not talking like a guy in his 30s, you
yeah.
know.
No, no,
Yeah,
yeah,
arguably now when I see a 21, 22, 23-year old, I'm like, you're still a kid for the most part. You know what I mean? Like you're still figuring stuff
dude.
out.
Yeah, and like that's what I've been telling people too, because it's like the Marine Corps is special because you have, 19, 20-year olds as corporals leading,
Yeah,
Marines into combat. Like,
yeah.
I mean, that right there, like all the,
And also those Marines that they're leading can be older than they are.
yeah,
It
yep,
doesn't go off age, it goes off experience. Like the old guys in the unit are the guys with the most combat experience. It doesn't go off of age. No one gives a shit about age at all. They
yeah,
care about competence and what is your combat experience.
yep,
And
exactly.
what do you bring to the table? Are you going to perform or are you not going to perform? And
Yeah,
so I think also that's why it struck me so much when I saw those guys cry.
yeah,
Because like now I work in a completely different environment, but like there it's all alpha personalities and it's all, go-getters and it's all people that want to be in the fight. And to watch
yeah,
like a grown man that I know has been in Fallujah and been other places cry, that was just like
yep,
I've just never, still like just the raw emotion.
yeah, yeah,
It's probably a guy that's experienced it before too. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. Oh
so
yeah.
it's just, it's got right. It's still to this day, like I'm sick to my stomach right now talking about it. Like it
Oh yeah,
really,
dude. Yeah, same.
yeah,
Yeah, same.
it impacted me that much where, Light, even though I wasn't as close to him as some of the other guys in the unit, like that was, the first person I had ever met and known that was killed in a way like
Mhm.
that, where you see
Yeah,
them one moment and then, 5 hours later they're dead. And you're
yeah.
just,
Like I was never super close with him, but we did have like um talks
yeah.
about gunnery stuff and stuff like that, like on the ramp, like when we were the maintenance in the vehicles in garrison.
I feel like our company as a whole was pretty tight, don't you? Like,
Yeah.
I feel like
Oh yeah.
everyone knew everyone. We spent so much, it was kind of relatively a small unit, and it's
Yeah.
such a unique unit that you kind of get to know everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like you kind of gravitate towards the people that know their shit,
Yeah,
like.
for sure.
And yeah, he was definitely like one of those guys.
Yeah,
For sure.
he was not someone to complain. And he'd been, just to talk about how awesome Jacob was, he had been injured in Iraq and
Mm,
been given the option to medically retire. And he decided instead to reenlist in the hospital and work his way back up so he'd deploy.
yeah.
And
And that's
unfortunately, he got killed. But like people complain about their lives or make excuses for things, and
mhm.
like you have a guy like that gets taken out of this world, and it's just unfortunate because I always think about I think about Rod a lot too, and we'll probably talk
Yeah.
about him later. But
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
just like think about what those guys would be doing now, and
Yeah.
their tenacity in life is just it's really unfortunate to watch or think about what their lives could have been.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, dude. Well, fuck. Yeah. I mean, kind of like shifting gears a little bit.
Yeah,
So like we go through the summer. I mean, like I know, like we took uh, there were sand dunes like out on uh, kind of like northeast of like Shabu, like by Route Crimson.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah.
and so like towards the end of summer, like we were going out there and like setting up OPs on the sand dunes and like kind of just skipping. And they're like 70 foot, 80 foot tall sand dunes, like super high, so you get a good vantage point of like our town that we're operating in. And I just like this is probably the one story where I actually felt weird like going out on patrol. And
Mhm.
so like we get dropped off on the upper shelf and we start like making our way down to the sand dunes. And the whole time I'm just like, dude, like something's not right. Something's not right. And so like I ended up like praying, like saying like, hey, just look over me, like, look over us, like I don't want to lose
Mhm.
anybody, blah blah blah. And so we get to the edge of the sand dune, and like we typically would set out like a little like half like 360, and send the lead the point guy like with the metal detector up the sand dune to clear the path for us. And so like we send him up, clears the path. The next two guys fall in, like they go up, set in position. Next two guys set in position, and then like the next two guys, it was like the interpreter and I forget who else. Yeah, I forget who it was, like right next to him. But the interpreter ends up stepping on a pressure plate, and it goes off, and I'm like, what the fuck was that? And
Yeah.
like I turn around, like the terp's like down, like holding his arm, and we call it in. Of course, EOD doesn't show up until like the fucking next day, so like we're just
Oh yeah.
sitting
Dude,
there
they were
all
so busy though in their defense though.
yeah, I know. But
Yeah.
like we're sitting there and it's probably like 9 o'clock in the morning. They roll up and it's like a surfer bro. He's like, what's up, y'all? Like, heard you guys freaking found a little booby trap. And we're like, yeah, dude, like what the fuck? And so anyways, like he pulls this thing out. It was like a 4 or 5 foot metal pipe with 40 pounds of HME in it with just a whole bunch of shrapnel in the end of it. Like it was a directional
Like
IED.
enslavement. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So like I don't know how the fuck they knew that we were going to that sand dune that night,
Dude,
but
they were good.
yeah, and like he stepped on the pressure plate, and the guy said, he's like, yeah, I don't know, like everything's functioning, like it might just be new HME, but like all you guys should be counting your blessings because the people that were on the sand dune would probably been safe, but like everybody that was down on the ground would have like
Oh yeah, that's
died,
great.
and yeah, and I was like the second to last man, and I'm like, fuck, dude, and so like then going back to I think end up going to the castle and we get debriefed and like I'm talking to like all the guys and stuff and they're like, yeah, dude, like I had a weird feeling like that night, and I'm like, dude, like so did I. And like literally everybody in the fucking
Mhm.
uh squad like had a weird feeling, and everybody prayed that night, dude. Like
That's yeah.
that's like I don't know, like like that's how I
I
know,
remember.
man.
I know, dude.
Like
There's some like weird times that we went out that I would get in the vehicle and I had like that little, like that boot camp Bible.
yeah,
And I would just like have it like next to, and I wasn't even like a religious dude, but it was just like you like looked, I am now, like I
yeah,
believe for sure. And looking back, there's so many things where like I would have a bad feeling and then it'd be like the point vehicle would hit an IED. Like, why is that
mhm,
bad feeling there all of a sudden? Because there's always that risk. And it's
yeah,
not like I saw something because they were super good. So like even with the mine rollers, they would put the pressure plate in front of the charge. So then the mine roller would go off of it and blow up underneath the vehicle. There was one
yeah,
day we hit our point vehicle hit an IED. We set up a cordon. They came and got a record to get it. Another vehicle in our convoy hit an IED. So we're at two vehicles, and then UOD comes, and I think their follow-on vehicle they were escorting hits an IED. So it was like boom, 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 boom. Like that was the IED threat, though. And it
Oh
was
yeah.
just like, and there was a couple of times where it was just real sketchy, the places we were going through, like where we were trying to find new routes to avoid IEDs, and we'd get stuck in like not an urban environment, but you know how they build those compounds really close together,
Yeah.
and you're trying
Yeah.
to fit a vehicle down them, and you're
But
like
they're
just
tight.
sitting there, and there's things at head height while you're in the turret trying to like traverse each yard, and it's like one of these things is just going to blow up and smoke, like just hit me in the face, and like I would
Yeah.
just and like you said, all you can do is just pray because, like, what are you gonna? Someone has to do the job. Like,
Yeah.
someone has to be on the gun. So, like, what am I gonna
Yeah.
do? Ask one of the guys below me, like, hey, bro,
Like,
I don't have a
hey,
good feeling about this. Do you feel like getting
hey,
your
it's
face
like,
blown up? Like,
yeah, come up here. Yeah. No, but yeah, no, that's a good point because I forget like
dude,
our
I have to tell you. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
oh because I forget like our square mileage of like AO that our whole
Oh, yeah, it's
platoon
big.
our whole company was like spanning, but we found a significant amount of IEDs.
Oh, it's
Uh,
insane.
yeah, I mean, I think it was like probably approaching like 1,000 because I know like
Probably.
yeah, like I
Yeah.
know we like in Shabu found at least like 300 because
Yeah,
like
and then it was like us combined with the Brits and other parts of the AO. They were finding
yeah,
IEDs like crazy. So, like, our AO was just littered. Like, that was the
yeah,
preferred way method of engaging us. You know what I
yeah.
mean? Was just IEDs, which is
So
frustrating. It's like, what are you gonna do? You
yeah,
just get blown up. You know what I mean?
oh yeah, for sure, dude. Yeah, let me ask you a question. Like, do you think that you ever stepped on a pressure plate and not
No.
and not go off?
So I did. I want to say no, but like there was. So I got two stories about McCraw real quick. But on my
Oh yeah,
first deployment, I had to walk on the side. Well, I didn't have to. I got, told that I was going to. I
yeah.
would like to say that they asked me. They did not ask me. They
Oh,
told me that I
yeah,
was going to
good
do
point.
this. I walked. So we were having issues with command net IEDs, guys setting up
Mhm.
wires, then, set them off from the side. So there's this one area where they kept doing it. So they had me, and I can't remember the other guy, the other poor bastard, but we walked on the side of the vehicle, seeing if we could spot the command deck cord while the
Yeah,
vehicles were driving. So they were driving in the middle and we were like flanking them 100 meters out by ourselves.
yeah,
And there was a couple times where I was like, that might be something. And I kind of avoided going there because we were looking for command depth, but like, who knows, man? Maybe it
yeah,
was like what Shabu had one that was in the doorway for however long, and then a dude heavy enough to step on it and get it to go
yeah,
off, and it to go off. And they were
yeah.
there.
Actually,
Um,
let me tell that story because that's a
yeah, go ahead.
so basically like we ended up ripping with fourth LAR. Um, fourth LAR ripped with second LAR, and so second LAR. They'd been living there. They took it over from the Taliban. They'd been living there for like I think it was a month, and
Hmm.
so you know the story goes, and I think this is actually in the the one movie about Leatherneck. Uh,
Okay.
I think the story is actually in there. So if you guys want to check that movie out. But basically like a couple guys after chow were like smoking and joking because you have like the compound, and then like inside the compound you have like HESCO walls like protecting the entry points of like your rooms just in case like you were taking fire. um so like in between there's like a little walkway in between like where your doors would be for the compound and like the HESCO wall, and like they were smoking and joking like right there, and a third guy came in, like walked, and like they had enough weight to set off a pressure plate that was in the wall of this compound. Now fast forward to when we get there, there's a giant American flag draped over there in honor of them. And uh, but I tell you what, dude, like that room, like nobody went in that room. But like you come back from like a night patrol, and like you would hear like people talking in that room, and like everybody's like asleep.
Yeah.
You'd hear it loud enough to where like you can't make out the voice, but you hear people talking, and like
Hmm.
every single fucking night, dude. And
The nights over there were weird. That's one
Yeah.
of the I'll pick up that story. So McCraw and I were on like the same fire team on my second deployment. I did a lot more foot stuff, a lot less
Mm,
vehicle stuff on my second deployment, kind of in the from the fighting season on. During the winter we did a lot of desert stuff. And then
yeah.
but anyways, we were running, sometimes morning patrols, sometimes night patrols, sometimes both in the same day. You know how it goes. And
Yeah.
we're out one night and me and McCraw kind of like take, I don't know, maybe we're overconfident or whatever, but we would kind of stray away a little bit and see if we could, catch some guys doing something, screwy on the Helmand River. And so
Yeah.
we were, on a night ambush we had set up and we're down by the river. And dude, I swear, me and him were like hearing people wade across water. And we're like, oh fuck. Like, cause there was like maybe a 10-foot mound in front of us, maybe.
Yeah.
And it was like river rocks from
Yeah.
halfway up and then down to the shore. And we thought we heard people waiting. And then like you could hear like shoes, not wet feet, but like shoes on the rocks. And we're like,
Yeah.
like they crossed the river. Like we're about to, and me and him were like, like we're thinking we're about to kill a bunch of dudes. We're like
Yeah.
giddy, kind of like we're sitting there like communicating without
Yeah.
communicating because we've been working together. And we waited until we heard enough where we're like, it stopped being waiting water and they all seem like they're on the stones. And we went up and we peeked. No one fucking there, dude.
Dude.
There was like a
Yeah.
turkey peek to look over the top because we're gonna like if there's like five guys, kind of communicate who's gonna shoot who first.
Yeah.
No one was there, and like like I 100% believe that I was hearing like people walk on the stones, and 100% thought it was you
Yeah.
know enemy combatants, and there was not even and it was a decent loom night where my PVS 14s were I could see pretty good in all directions.
Yeah.
There was no one there, and there was
Yeah.
no water like on the rocks or anything. So I know other people I've heard other stories where they've seen like Russian soldiers and stuff or
Yeah.
whatever. Like I don't know. I know I heard what I heard, and I believe you know
Oh
what I
yeah.
believe about it. But there was no one there. Like there was always
Yeah.
weird stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah, for
That's the
sure.
other scary thing is sleeping somewhere where like it's dangerous and you just get used to sleeping there. Like I would have so many messed up dreams. I
Oh
think just
yeah.
from the stress. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, that one was pretty unique. But then
Yeah.
also with your IED story, when we got on our second deployment too, we got ambushed on the Helmand River after we found a mortar tube. And after the fight, we realized that they had kind of like marked their territory with that white kind of battle flag they would fly.
Yeah. Yeah.
They stuck that in the ground in our side of the river. And my lieutenant was like, "Hey, go push that out of the or pull that out of the ground." And I just
Yeah.
remember like I looked at it and I was like, "Fuck, I don't know if I should do that." And so I like went, as slow as I possibly could to see stuff, and I saw a blue wire sticking out of the base of it. And
Yeah.
McCraw once again, I was like, "Hey, McCraw, there's a blue wire," and he was like, "Don't move." And he moved like 15 feet away from me, and he's like, "Now you can back off," because he didn't want me to hit a pressure plate and kill him too. I was like, "You fucking dick!" Like only Marines would laugh about that. So then I had to backtrack
Oh,
over my footprints or whatever, but he made sure he backed off so he wouldn't get killed too. But yeah, so then we
oh.
mind stuffed and we pulled it out. But then a couple weeks later, a guy, I can't remember his name, anyone who was in his unit, forgive me, but he was first LAR, but I think he was Charlie Company. He pulled a flag out of the ground down into Gaza.
Oh, yeah, Kai Pat.
Yes, and he got killed.
Yeah.
And that was a couple weeks after we had our experience with the flag.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
just like a weird thing, and I just remember hearing that he got killed after pulling a flag out of it. It would like it released it and let it connect. And I was like, holy shit. Because that was the feeling I had. I just
Oh
remember
yeah.
looking at it. And I went to a program when I got out of the Marine Corps where it's like you basically go back to high school and they reteach you all the stuff so you can go to college.
Yeah.
One of Kai Pat's guys that was on his fire team said that Kai Pat was like, hey, I have a bad feeling about this because he was an experienced guy too.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so like I just remember I like looked at it and I was like, man, I've been doing this shit too long. I was like, you know what I mean? I was like over a year in Afghanistan at that point.
Yeah. Oh
But
yeah. Yep. Yep. Fucking wild, dude. Um, all right, so yeah, like kind of wrapping it up, but this is gonna be a probably a good talk. Baram
yeah,
Shah.
okay.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I think
I
my wife texted me and was like, are you done yet? I'm like,
oh,
yeah,
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 the
yeah,
twins are having fun.
yeah, yeah. I'll kind of
You
preface
want to,
this. I
yeah,
remember us getting briefed at Payne, that basically this was going to be a mini Fallujah.
Yeah.
And I just remember hearing that. I was like, fuck. A mini Fallujah, like, god
And we're
damn.
like 3 weeks to going home too. So we're
Yeah.
thinking
Oh yeah.
we're thinking we're gonna rip soon and we're gonna be on that plane going home, you
Well,
know.
actually, do you remember like because like it's deployment talk, but
Yeah.
you remember like, oh yeah, we're going home early. That's
Oh
why
yeah.
like everybody's going to Paine, like we're gonna be flying out. Like
Both
that rumor,
deployments.
yeah, that
Yeah.
rumor spread like fire, and it's
Yeah.
like,
We're all like, dude, we're gonna go home a month early. That's crazy. Let's go. And then we
yeah.
get there and it's like, nope, you boys are probably gonna die. And you're like, fuck. Yeah. Like that was pretty much that's what I remember too. Like they were saying they're gonna fly in pamphlets and everything to let
Yeah,
civilians know to get out of there and to let the Taliban know that we're coming. And
yeah,
it was like, all right, so we're picking a fight. You know what I mean? Like that's all I was
yeah,
thinking. It's like, cool. Like I was a little bit disappointed at first because I was like thinking that like it's just that weight off your shoulders that you feel like you're gonna make it. And that's why they always say people die in the beginning and at the end of deployments because you get complacent. And you start
yeah.
thinking
Oh
you made
yeah,
it. So you're not doing the things where you're looking at a flag and looking for the little wires that are coming out while you walk up. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like you're not doing those things anymore because you think you made it. And
yeah,
I think that took our complacency and just like sucked it out of the room because
yeah.
it was I remember that and then I remember doing the rock drill and which a rock drill is where they set up like how you're going to move and do the operation with rocks
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
like different things to do landforms and it's all super accurate with grids and a map and it matches the map and everything so everyone in the company is learning the job so everyone can do it
Mhm.
and I remember them discussing our role as the first company through and they
Yeah.
they said something like 40 to 50% casualties didn't they
Yeah, it was a
like wounded
lot.
and killed, they
Yeah.
were saying a lot. And then I remember our XO going, and he was like a fucking kind of a surfer dude too. But he goes,
Yeah.
"Hey, you're gonna see your buddies' vehicles on fire, and you have to keep going. You are
Yeah.
not stopping." He's like, if you have to push them out of the way, you push them out of the way, and you keep going. We have to make the timeline. And I
Yeah.
just remember hearing that, and I was like, well, fuck, I'm the one on the recovery, so every time a vehicle goes down, I'm gonna be going right into that shit to
Yeah.
push that, I'm gonna have to push dudes out of the way for everyone else to go. And I was just like, oh my God. Like,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
once again, these are all the people you've been with, these are all your boys, you've been together on this deployment, you're thinking you're making it, now you're being told that, a lot of you might not come back. And that was where we were talking about when we had technical issues, or we might have talked at the beginning of this too. Like it felt like a funeral. Like it really
Yeah.
did in a way. Like it just like
So solemn.
so
Yeah.
solemn, like, and it wasn't that we were scared to go. It was just like someone you
Yeah.
expected a lot of us not to come back. Like
Oh
I
yeah.
distinctly remember thinking I was going to die. Like that was
Yeah.
probably one of a couple times that I was like thought for sure. And like I was saying earlier when Gunny hugged me and he was like, "Hey, I love you, man." When we were stepping off, I was just like, when we went did the rock drills, I was nervous. When I saw a lot of the Fallujah guys and Ramadi guys get nervous, I was like, "Fuck." Because
Yeah.
then we start running a lot of redoing those, school circles and going over casualty care and
Oh
battle
yeah. That's
lines
all
and
that's all we did.
yeah, dude,
Like
just like fully
casualties.
expecting,
Yeah.
yeah.
Like nine
So then
lines. Yeah.
yeah. And then I also remember when we went blackout where no one had communications. And I was
Mhm.
like, oh, the shit's for real. And we did a whole talk and all the combat cameras showed up and we're all circled around, the battalion commander. And he was like talking about how we're going to go and we're going to like destroy this town. And I
Yeah.
was like, oh, okay. So this is like a battle. Like this is what that feels like. Because
Yeah.
mostly like what we did before that is you patrolled and if you got into something, you got into something.
Yeah.
This was like we're going to get into something. There's no doubt
Yeah.
about it. Like this is the different phase lines for artillery, HIMARS, MICLICs,
Mhm.
Alpha Company. You have to be here at this time, or the HIMARS are going to hit, and they're not going to be effective for your pass. And I don't know if you remember. Remember when we were driving through to the staging area itself was like what an 8 hour drive almost down
Mhm.
south. And
Yeah.
then we staged, and it was literally like if anyone saw us, we chased them down and detained them until we were ready to go.
Oh
And
yeah.
then yeah, it was just that serious. And then we set off and everyone said goodbye to each other.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
literally giving each other hugs and
Yeah.
like, hey, good luck.
Yeah. Cause like My vehicle commander was Villarreal,
Hmm.
and
Good dude.
yeah, really good dude. And like before like big like missions or stuff, like we'd always have like Menudo, and like he's like, yeah, this might be the last time, and I'm like, yep, fuck it, dude, like let's do it, like, and yeah, dude, I just remember like that night, so like we do the staging area. I think we pushed off at like 2 in the morning or something like that.
Yeah, it was.
Um,
You remember it was delayed for a day too because of rain.
the rain,
So
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
like our phase,
Right.
like so we had our D Day, and then
Yeah,
they like we're like, hey, we're not going because it's going to be too soft to ground and we're gonna get stuck. And we're like,
yeah,
so then we had to wait another day. That was the worst, dude.
yeah. Actually, yeah, I do remember that now. Yeah, it's
Because I
like,
probably smoked 2 packs of cigarettes in that day.
yeah. Well, it's just like, yeah, it's like all kind of like I have like bits and pieces of it,
Hmm.
but I just remember like stepping off and like for whatever reason, like as we were like going through the pass, like Cowboys from Hell like came on my iPod. And I'm like,
Yeah.
fuck yeah, like we're gonna fuck these
Oh
guys
yeah,
up.
dude. I,
Um,
dude, and
yeah,
then when the artillery started hitting, and then the HIMARS went, and you're just like hearing it on the outside of the vehicle, and then
yeah,
the mid flick when we got to the phase line, and I distinctly remember when Sergeant Brigante opened up with his 240 because that kind of opened up all of it, where we had some incoming, and then we had a lot of explosions start happening. But I remember he was on the radio, and I can't remember the lieutenant's name. If he hears this, I apologize that I'm putting you on blast. But he goes on the radio and he goes, hey, we have a guy with an AK maneuvering on us. What do you want us to do? And our CEO Skipper comes over and he's like, fucking kill him over the radio. And then all of a sudden you just hear a long rip from a coax. And then after that, it was just the 25 start going off and just
yeah,
started lighting people up. And like it
yeah.
was like that the whole way in after that. It was just like
Oh
we would hit
yeah.
a new baseline. Guys would be shooting because we were kind of waiting for the engineers to. I remember waiting for the engineers forever,
Hmm.
and we were taking like I could see on the thermal we were taking incoming fire,
Oh
and
yeah.
and then the Miklik goes out, and I'm like, I wonder how loud that's gonna be. And that shit rocked my brain, dude. Like literally,
Yeah.
I had I cleared my sinuses, everything. It was that loud. We were so like
Yeah.
because we were right. I want to say we were right behind White Platoon because they were first, and we were expecting them to get hit right away. So we were gonna go in and try to get them out of the way and try to save as many people as we could. That was kind of the
Mhm.
plan. But so we were pretty close to the Miklik, but I just remember that thing went off and it was just, but yeah, same way. Like I didn't have cool music that came through, but I had an
Yeah.
iPod on. But when
Yeah.
I think when Bergante opened up with that 240, and then it just kind of like symbolized the beginning of, the different guns going off. I was like, holy
Oh
shit. Cause
yeah.
I'd never, like we'd been around loud stuff and done joint exercises with aircraft before, but this was like we're getting J dams like
Dude. Like we had
multiple
like I
runs.
feel like we had almost every like combat asset like in
Yeah,
Afghanistan. That
the A10s were coming in,
A10s, AC
scraping.
130, the gunship.
Yeah,
We
just
had
going off.
fucking, yeah, like Apaches, like dude, like Cobras, like I mean, literally, I feel like it was every asset like we
Yeah,
had on that.
and it wasn't like it was like dull. Like there was like really no. There was a little bit of downtime like midday after we'd been there for a while, but like tow rockets are going off. 25s are shooting constantly. Scouts are shooting. They're getting out of
Yeah,
vehicles and shooting. They're shooting on the way in. Like I never
yeah,
even thought about it this way until, recently. But, when I saw someone else talk about it that was there, they called it a battle or like, assembling a battle, like a raid like that. I was like, that was the closest I've ever been. And like you read about some of the things that guys got into in Vietnam and they have air on station and, tanks rolling and everything else. Like it was pretty chaotic like that.
yeah.
It's probably not the same way that the NBA was probably rushing them, but, we did a really good job of what we do when we got there, though. Like
Oh
that was,
yeah, we took no
I
casualties.
we took zero casualties, which they expected a lot.
Yeah,
You know, thankfully, a lot of people say it was the potentially a classified aircraft that disabled a lot of the IEDs. I think a lot of it had to do with just the fact that a lot of us were not supposed to die that day. Is how I
yeah,
take it. There's no other way to
yeah,
explain it. You
yeah.
know,
No, yeah, because I mean, like that whole valley when we were coming in was like littered with IEDs.
yeah.
Because like I
Then
don't
they
know,
were
did you
engaging
ever
too.
see?
So.
Did you ever see the thermal imaging?
Yes, I was
Yeah.
driving over them. Yeah. So
Well,
I was
no,
just trying to,
like
yeah.
the actual photo of like the satellite photo of that
Oh, no, I
building.
haven't seen the satellite photo. I remember seeing hot spots on my thermal while we were driving through, and I was following so already being up 24 hours. And for people that don't know, there's like a little periscope that the driver looks through, and you can replace that with like a thermal TV where you can see 12 o'clock of your vehicle, and that's it.
Mhm.
And my wife just texted me about our dog throwing up on the clean carpet. But so I'm watching the vehicle in front of me. I'm trying to stay in the tread, same way that you walk in a ranger file. So one of you doesn't step on a landmine, you're trying to step on the same feet. Um, and I just remember looking to the sides of these tread marks, and there's just hot spots in the ground. And I'm like, bro, what
Yeah,
is like, not talking like one or two, talking a
yeah,
lot of different hot spots. And I was like, those aren't like, frag from anything. Those are still like warm and they're
yeah,
buried. And
yeah.
so, yeah, I've heard that the thermal image looks nuts. Like we drove straight through a giant minefield.
Yeah, so like from what I saw from like Tajma was like it was a picture of like the day before and it's just like you see all these IDs and then like the rain came and like the next day like when we went through they're
Mhm.
drastically
Yeah.
different than the night prior. I mean but
I've
that
heard guys try to explain that in different ways, that it was the rain and all this stuff. I'm like, man, I don't
yeah.
know.
I mean, I
Whatever.
don't know, but like,
Yeah.
is what it is. Like we made it out. But yeah, dude, like yeah, I just remember going through and like getting little tings like on the sides of the tank and um yeah, like I actually I probably gave like my scouts like permanent hearing loss because like the hatches were open just in case we needed them to like fire if like people were like running up on the vehicle. And
Yeah.
I remember shooting the 25 like over the hatch, and I'm like, "Get the fuck down!" like, and yeah, dude, it was definitely like chaotic and hectic. But I mean, like dude, like, yeah, we fucking did that shit, man. Like,
Yeah, it went about as good as you would hope it would go. And I think once again,
yeah,
it just like everyone showed up to do their job. Like
yeah,
no one tried to get out of it. No one complained.
yeah,
And I think that's what, one of the unique things that I took away from that whole experience is I think at the same time we all learned what type of men we were because we'd already been in combat, but like hearing that, you're going into 40 or 50% casualties and seeing no one walk away from it or even like get upset about it, like all grunts complain, like that's part of the job. Like we all complain about shit, but like
yeah.
when it came time to go, and after we hugged, like everyone was business. I
Oh
didn't
yeah,
think once after that point. I wasn't scared after we stepped off.
no,
I would say I was nervous and a little bit scared beforehand, but once we stepped off and I was doing my job, like it is what it
yeah,
is. Like, I said that stupid gladiator quote. Death smiles at all men. All a man can do is smile back, or something like that. I said that to
yeah,
myself 1,000 times, getting ready to step off, though, which is
yeah,
super cheesy. But like, I couldn't think about like anything else. Like, I was just
yeah,
like, because you kind of go through the Rolodex of things that you wish you would have been able to do. It's not like you're almost like mourning your own life that you didn't
yeah,
get to have, and you're just kind of saying bye to it so you can focus on the job. And I kind of did that because I always wanted to be a dad, which I have 5 kids now, which I'm very, very happy about and blessed.
yeah,
But like even back then, I realized I wanted to be a dad, and I'll never get to do that.
yeah,
Uh, and I would think that was the hardest thing for me. And that was something after my second deployment, I kind of realized that was kind of one of the reasons I stepped away is, you know, the deployments were stopping, so I didn't feel guilty about leaving.
mhm,
Um, but also like I wanted to make sure I had kids, and Barum Shah just kind of showed me, like I said, I wasn't scared to go back again.
oh
After
yeah,
I think going through Barum Shah, not a lot really scares me. I don't know if you feel that
no,
way or other guys feel that way,
no,
but
not
once
not
you
at all.
face
Yeah,
like, yeah, once you face what you think is going to be your death, like I think about death in a different way now because I don't want to leave my kids or anything like that.
yeah.
But
But you're
back
not
then,
afraid
like,
that like if something were to happen, you're not
yeah,
afraid. Like
like
I
I'm
mean
not
that's
scared to go run into somewhere to help somebody if I had to, or like,
yeah,
if there's an
and I
active shooter, I'm not scared to go and address that threat or anything like that. I just, after that experience of being so close to like,
actual
thinking that, yeah,
death.
thinking you
Yeah,
might actually die and then,
yeah.
making it out of it. Like I remember seeing Zach, I can't remember his last name right now, Fuller. Fuller, when we got back, and he's sitting there and he's just smiling ear to ear when we got to the staging point after we left, because we had some issues getting out too. Some vehicles broke down. We had to go back. We got shot at kind of more when we were going back to get these vehicles out. And that
Yeah.
was like the most chaotic moment, was just like being so sleep deprived, and there's, all that craziness. But we
Yeah.
get back and he's just smiling like ear to ear, just like, and I've kind of known him my entire Marine Corps career, like from boot camp on. We went to infantry school together and stuff. And
Yeah.
he was a great Marine. I think he's out now, but
Yeah.
great guy. Um, but he was just like, so happy to see each other. Like everyone
Yeah.
was so happy to see each other, and like the
Oh
fact that
yeah.
no one had gotten killed, and we had just pulled that off. And like we did our job. We did what light armor reconnaissance is supposed to do, and we
Yeah.
did it well. So that was cool to be able to actually finally do the mission. Go far
Yeah.
into enemy lines, fully support yourself, and you know,
Yeah. And like to put it in context too, like I mean, like the town that we were going into, it was all Taliban fighters. There was
yeah,
not one person that wasn't Taliban. There was no women
mhm.
or children there. Like we weren't just going into a town and laying waste.
Yeah,
Like
no,
these
and they
were,
actually went to like the Pakistani side of it too. So like you
yeah,
could see where the civilians went. So that was the
yeah,
other thing. I think people misunderstand a lot about what we were doing over there. Like we were fighting on the side of the Afghan government and the people that served that, and we weren't there to hurt civilians. Like that completely
yeah,
takes away from what we were trying to do. And I think
yeah.
sometimes people are like, "Oh, you're just over there like killing innocent people." It's like they were
No,
fighters just like us. Like we,
yeah,
like literally, it's the same thing. If you shoot someone who's innocent in the United States, you're going to go to jail. It was the same thing over there. You were
mhm,
investigated. You were, you had shooter statements. You had after action reports. You had all of that. It wasn't.
yeah,
It's not the. It wasn't like, I don't want to say, I don't want to disparage World War II veterans, but it wasn't kind of like World War II where it's like, oh, some civilians got caught in the crossfire. It's like you have to answer for that. You're going to go to Leavenworth probably.
oh yeah, yeah, for
So
sure.
it's very,
Yeah, I was.
some pretty strict rules of engagement.
Yeah, yeah, and like for this mission, I mean, it was what's the rules of engagement? It's 429 Alpha, I think, is like the all weapons
Unscrewed.
hot, like
Yeah.
like everybody there's
Very rare. Very rare to happen.
yeah,
But yeah,
and yeah, so for everybody that will watch this, like just take into consideration, like these people over there, even right now, like with the Taliban taking over the country, they are terrorists, they are bad guys.
yeah.
It doesn't matter what you guys get told, like they
They do
are
awful things to
horrible,
people,
horrible people. Um,
especially to women. Yeah. Especially
yeah.
to women and anyone who doesn't agree with what they want them to be doing. Like I we'll have to do a whole other podcast about what happened to
Oh
our
yeah,
Afghan
dude. Yeah,
stuff. It's just that was heartbreaking in itself after all the years, and being so removed from it. But
yeah,
yeah, but Barham Shaw, even after going back a second time and, arguably seeing more stuff on my second deployment than I did my first in some ways. Yeah, Barham Shaw will just be always one of those things that kind of sticks out where, they really let us do our job, and they really let, you know, our leaders utilize what we were good at. That's,
yeah,
and it showcased it, you know what I mean? Like they
yeah.
fought, and it was not in the same league as us when
No,
everyone was doing what they needed to be doing. So,
yeah,
but overall, like I don't know, man. It was overall, I think, a good experience.
yeah,
There's been some issues since I got out and stuff, and I think that just comes with after you do something like that. How are you able to just go back and work a 9 to 5 and
yeah,
lead a normal life? And I think a lot of guys, in their own ways, struggle with that, and will get through it in different ways. But I
yeah,
definitely was one of those guys too. Like, you know what I mean? I
yeah.
struggled when
I think we all were.
it didn't hit me for a while until after I got out either. It
Yeah,
took a while for
yeah.
me
Because
to
I mean,
like,
you're still like when you're back from deployment, you're still with buddies that are going through the same stuff,
mhm,
and like
yeah,
you're all coping together. But then like once you get out, you're alone.
yeah,
Like you lose connections. Like it's a lot harder.
yeah,
But yeah, I kind of want to end on this. Like after like our whole talk. you know, and like everything that you and I both have to, deal with, like our bodies, just falling
Yeah.
apart, like our, minds kind of like falling apart. Would you do it all over again?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I
Yeah,
can't, yeah, I couldn't think about doing,
yeah.
I think one of the things that sounds weird is like some days it's like, I wish I was just doing that again.
Hmm. Oh,
And like,
dude.
I know that's hard to like say to people, but like sometimes when I'll like little stuff will stress me out, I'm like, you're gonna have to worry about this.
Yep.
Like it sucks. And I've heard someone describe like, shut up, you wouldn't want to actually go back. And like that's probably true. I want to experience all the bad parts, but I think what I really miss is the guys. You know what I mean? Like I've
Yeah.
never met anyone else like that, and I've never had, that sense of brotherhood. And
Oh,
I
yeah.
don't think I ever will again. And I think that's why I look back on it and I'm like, man, you know, if I would have gotten to experience that now or when I was a little bit younger, instead of being such a young kid and being so like not even remotely the same person I was when I back then, um, what I think I would take away from it now is just that sense of friendship. Like
Mhm.
it is a
Yeah.
different, it's a different kind of bond. Like every one of those guys that I served with in Alpha Company on my first deployment, like I'll always, if they ever needed help, I'd always be there for them.
Oh,
Like,
yeah. 100%.
it's just, yeah.
Yeah.
So what about you? Would you?
Oh, fuck yeah, dude. Like the only caveat to the next time doing it is I wish I could kill more Taliban like that. Like I
Yeah,
just,
it didn't seem to work out exactly the way. Like, I think that's another part that's hard that I've had to reconcile with is just how it turned out. And,
yeah.
and it just seems like the whole entire country doesn't talk about it anymore. And for
Oh,
like
yeah.
us, it'll be there every day.
Yeah. Yep.
It'll always be something that we experienced that we went through. Like, Light's still dead.
Yep.
Rod still took his own life. McCraw still took his own life. Boyer still took his own
Yeah.
life. Like, all the great Marines
You
that I've
saw
met.
ski,
Yeah,
like,
Ski,
like,
Miles. The
yep.
list goes on and on. And when you start describing, like, it's just hard because we could probably keep naming the names. You know what I
Oh,
mean? There's
yeah.
just the guy from Weapon Company and Delta that just killed himself too from when we deployed. I don't
Mhm.
even, unfortunately, I don't remember his name, but it just,
Yeah.
you know, when you watch the people that sent you there to do it forget about it themselves, and not only forget about it, but then send money to the Taliban afterwards.
Yep.
It's just, it's almost like in
Slap
some
in the
ways,
face.
oh, dude, man,
Yeah.
it's so egregious the way that it's been handled
Yep.
that, and I know I'm not the only one who feels about it, and I think
Yeah.
everyone who went over there and served is just kind of disgusted by what happened to it.
Oh, yeah.
And, and if you're not, like, I don't know how you're not, like,
Yeah.
regardless if you feel like we should have been in Afghanistan or not, like, we could have done the withdrawal a lot easier and a lot
Mhm.
different, you
Yep.
know,
Agreed.
but
Yep. Well,
so,
anyways, man, yeah, thank you so much for doing this. Like, it's good
yeah,
to pick
man.
your brain about this because I know, like I've said, like we haven't really talked about any of our experiences.
Yeah, even when we were in, I think there's some like certain moments with you. Like we were always friendly. You know what I mean? I was talking
Yeah,
to my mom about this today because I was driving back from the range and we were talking. I was like, yeah, me and you were always friendly. I kind of like always knew you, but I think one thing that always sticks out to me is after Rod was like my best friend from my first
yeah,
deployment. We got back and me and him were always like inseparable and he took his own life in the
hmm,
barracks room next to me. And I remember you were on duty and the NCIS guy was kind of like reaming me because I was like not having his shit because my
yeah,
best friend had just shot himself. You know what I mean?
yeah,
And I remember we were walking away and you're like, you know what? Fuck that guy. And I was like, I like twigs. This works
yeah,
for me. You know what I mean? He's
yeah,
like, and you're like, you said something to me and you're like, hey, they've never been through what we've just been through and they'll never understand. And I think that's always, I don't even remember if you remember saying that to me, but I
yeah.
just like,
I mean, I don't remember it, but I know that that's just me. Like,
yeah,
like I just,
but it was just like, cause
yeah,
I was so mad and you're just like, hey man, like it's not, they're never going to get it. And that's almost true to this day. Like, how do you explain to someone who's never been there why it means so much to you? You
well,
just
yeah,
can't.
and that's exactly why I wanted to do this video because I mean, I like even this video, it doesn't it give justice to like any like somebody watching this video, like you get a taste of like our experiences, hopefully, but like
Yeah.
the after effects, like I don't think
Yeah.
you can't explain that, like
Like there's some like besides talking about it with you, there's some stuff that I haven't talked about in like 14 years. You know what I mean?
oh
There's some
yeah,
stuff that I'll bring up to my wife that I haven't thought about, you know,
Yeah.
years and years and years. And then I still to this day will like get choked up talking about certain stuff. And it's like, to try to convey that amount of emotion. And a lot of it has to do with like guys that are no longer here. It's not really anything that I feel bad about doing because I don't. Like I did my job, and
Mhm.
you know,
Yep.
I I like to think that I held up my end of the bargain with everybody else, but like just the amount of guys that we've lost has been the hardest thing. Like,
Oh yeah,
yeah,
100% good. Yep. Well,
but
again, man, thank you so much.
yeah, of course, man. Of
Appreciate it.
course, we'll have to do it again. We'll have to talk
Oh,
about second deployment.
yeah, we'll have to do like a part two or something because
Yeah,
I
something.
mean, it's just yeah, it's a lot, dude. And like,
And then we can talk about maybe a different one. We can talk about gear now. Some things we
oh
would do
yeah,
different. Yeah.
oh yeah, yeah, we definitely need to do that. Um, but yeah, for anybody that watches this video, hope you guys enjoyed it, and we'll see you guys later.
See you guys. Thanks.
I see, man.
See you, man.